Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming to our workshop. My name is Eric Johnston, and I am here with my colleague, Rania Aboushileh, who is in the other room with the ladies. Rania, how many ladies are over there now?
8.
Okay,
9, yeah.
Great. We're happy that you stayed to come to our workshop. It's probably been a long day for some of you. I don't think this will take us 3 hours. Anyway, Rania and I work for Saudi Aramco. I'm sure most everyone is familiar with Saudi Aramco. And you probably also know that Saudi Aramco has been involved in industrial and vocational training for a long time. So the company has a lot of experience responding to new trends, new technology, new methodologies, new approaches. And several times in the past, we have had to adjust and change our programs to stay ahead of the curve in terms of training and development. And this is another one of those times. There have been so many new tools made available to us, there's new technology, and also the trainees, the learners who are coming to us, are also different than they used to be. And so all of that has led us to changing our program once again. And we have made a transition now to a smart learning environment. And we're excited to be here to tell you about some of the things that we have done. And we're going to do that in this presentation called Performance-Based Training Solutions for the Digital Generation. But because this is a workshop, we're also going to involve all of you. So we're going to give you the opportunity to think about some of the situations, some of the challenges that we face, and to see what you think about them. And we will share with you how we handled those challenges. I should say also that Rania and I work at a division at Saudi Aramco called the Program Development and Evaluation Division, or PD and ED. That means we are program designers. We develop the curriculum and the materials that are used at industrial training, Saudi Aramco industrial training centers across the kingdom. So we are curriculum people. Some of you may also be curriculum people. Is anyone a curriculum person here? Some of you, probably most of you are not. You might be administrators or maybe IT people or maybe teachers, I'm not sure. But it's great that you're not all the same, because if there's one thing that we have learned in this project that we've been working on, communication between everybody involved is very important in succeeding in this kind of smart learning initiative type project. So we're going to let you have a chance to talk to each other, which is what you should be doing in the real world too, talking to each other and communicating. Just to quickly go over the agenda for today. My presentation, I'm going to talk a little bit about the learners that we're getting now from the digital generation and talk about what the needs of those learners are and what their preferences are for learning. I'm going to tell you about our project at Aramco and what we have done to address those needs of today's learners. And I will show you some of the materials that we have developed. And then we will do those workshop scenarios. So I will present you some scenarios that are similar to the scenarios that we encountered as we went through our project. And you can talk about them and we'll share ideas. And then we'll finish up by talking about some lessons learned and do a quick question and answer. And we'll probably take a break somewhere in there. But before I get started on this, I want to do a quick activity that will sort of get you in the the workshop mentality. I want to give you a chance to say hello to the people sitting next to you and to think about something with each other and discuss something. So we're going to do a quick discussion task before we get started. Now, the title of this workshop, I think, was something like Trends in Developing Smart Learning Environments, something like that, right? So our first discussion, I'm going to ask you to sort of think about what are those trends in smart learning. So if you could, I know that this room, I don't know about how the ladies' room is, but I know that this room, it's not that great for a group discussion, doing group work, but maybe just with the people sitting next to you. Talk about this question. So with the people at your table, make a list or just think of some innovative learning strategies that you associate with a smart learning environment. So when we talk about trends in smart learning environments, what are we talking about? Just sort of share your ideas for a second with the people around you, and then in about 5 minutes, I'll ask you to give me some of the things that you talked about. Okay? Yes? Is there Rania? Do we have Arabic translation?
I don't think that we do. But if you
Do you want to translate this task?
Okay, sure. So مع الناس اللي حواليك في الطاولة ممكن إنك تسوي لستة الأشياء اللي أنت تربطها مع السمارت ليرنينج انفايرمنت اللي هي بيئة التعليم الذكية. بيئة التعلم الذكي.
Does that help?
Yeah.
You mean you want translation for me as I'm talking?
I think they're gonna distribute some translation infos.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So ask them to bring
Do these?
your-
Is there a translator? Okay, let's talk all together now. I don't know if your microphones are working. Do these work? Maybe not. But can someone just share with me one of the things that they think about when they think about smart learning environment? Anybody? Yes.
Actually, what I'm doing in my class is using the YouTube.
Okay, great.
Since sometimes.
What's going on here? So using YouTube.
Yes, I'm using YouTube because the time is limited, and sometimes, especially in computer science and networking, you have a lot of things and tasks and information you would have to give to the students, and sometimes even some practical things. And since we are in networking, we are, alhamdulillah, thanks to God that we have the tools as a lab, which is someone on the bucket tracer in Cisco. So we give them I give them the lecture, and then after that I already prepare for this, and I give them the link, and the link there's assignment. So I give the assignment, so she see the video, and then he send me the assignments on email, and then I correct it.
Okay.
This is actually, it helps a lot, and also it saves a lot of time.
Great. And so you find that your students respond well to YouTube videos.
Actually, there is a grace. If he didn't do it, then he will not get his grade.
Okay, great. So great, YouTube videos, that's Great. Anything else? Any other things that you associate with smart?
Yes. I think the environment should be cooperative, so students can cooperate together to solve a problem or to invent something. So it should be easy to cooperate together, so they will learn from each other.
Great. Yes, cooperative learning. That is something that we're hearing a lot these days. Anything else? Any other strategies? Sounds like the women have something to say.
We have a person participating. She says gamification, games in the classroom.
Great. That's another thing that we hear a lot about when we listen to talk about smart learning, making things fun and gamifying things.
And interactive.
Yes, interactivity is a big part of smart learning environments. Anything else in this room?
It should be students friendly or teacher friendly. The interface or everything is supposed to be easy. They shouldn't have lots of technical problems, or it's difficult to involve or cooperate with each other.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's always a challenge with the technology. Anything else? Okay, we don't have to spend too much time on this. We have made this list of, these are sort of learning strategies that are often associated with smart learning. And some of those things that we talked about are on there. So there's collaborative learning, there's gamification. We have ebooks, you can see is bolded. That's because Rania and I and our coworkers, we have spent a lot of time making ebooks. Our new curriculum in the training centers at Saudi Aramco are all delivered through ebooks. And our students and our teachers access those through iPads that they use in the classroom. The students take them home also. But in our ebooks, we also do a lot of these other things. So we try to make things, we try to use games and do collaborative activities, and there's a lot of interaction. So these are all trends in smart learning. What we're going to talk about today is something that we actually did, which is focused a lot on ebooks. So we're going to tell you about our project, which incorporates many of these trends. So let's do that. Let me get started. And we need to start by talking about why did we bother making ebooks? And the reason is really all about our learners. Our learners come from what we call the digital generation, which I'm sure you've heard of. And what is the digital generation? Well, I'm sure you know, if you've worked with young people, young trainees or students these days, that young people today are very comfortable with technology. They've grown up with technology. They have never known a world without it. But really, it's not so much, the point here is not so much that this generation is comfortable with technology. The point is more that this generation is uncomfortable without technology. Meaning, if you've had a classroom, I know at Saudi Aramco, in our training centers, we tried for a long time to keep cell phones, keep smartphones out of the classroom, to make sure our students were not using their phones. And it was really a losing battle because they were not able to leave their smartphones in their pocket or somewhere else. We wanted them to focus on our old-fashioned paper books, and it was very difficult for them not to use their phones. So this initiative, our Smart Learning Initiative, is really us recognizing that maybe instead of trying to force these new trainees to do things the way that we've always done it, the traditional way, maybe we need to adjust the way that we give our course to meet the needs of these new trainees. So sort of what this quote says. We don't want to force our trainees to do things the old way. We need to meet our new trainees and respond to their needs, because their needs today are different than the needs and the styles and the preferences of our trainees in the past. So that's sort of the reason for our transition to the smart learning environment. Let's look at what the preferences of the digital generation is. Researchers tell us that most of the learners in this generation are visual learners or visual kinesthetic learners, which means that they like a lot of pictures, they like a lot of videos, like YouTube videos. They like things that they can interact with physically, that they can touch and drag and move around. We know that they prefer learning that is relevant, that they can see a use for. They like things that are active and not passive. They like learning, they like instant gratification. So they like learning that's instantly useful. They like fun, of course, who doesn't? And things to be engaging. And digital generation prefers to be able to interact with their course material, to explore and to discover. And also they like a social aspect, to collaborate with people that they're learning with. These are all things that the digital generation likes. So then the question is, what can we do as curriculum designers to meet the needs of our new learners? And what we did is we designed ebooks, and we made a very conscious effort to make sure that we had a lot of visual, a lot of video. We tried to make sure that our content was relevant so that in our training centers, students are doing tasks in their coursework that is related to and directly relevant to what they're going to be doing in their jobs. We made an effort to make things more active. So in the past, when you had a book, it was just a lot of just looking at a book and reading it. In our new ebooks, we made an effort to have some activity on every page of content so that there's some interaction or dragging or there's some activity. It's active. We made sure that there was instant use for what was happening, that students saw the relevance and how useful what they were learning is. And we made an effort to make things fun and engaging and collaborative. We tried to keep all of this in mind as we were designing our materials. And I'll show you in just a second what we did and give you some examples of that. So we made a lot of books, and we have actually started using those books. We piloted our new digital ebooks last year and earlier this year, and then very recently we have rolled out this curriculum and these materials across all of the Saudi Aramco training centers, industrial training centers, including 2 local service providers, NIDI and SPSP Dammam, who are training also Saudi Aramco apprentices. And so far, we are very encouraged with how things are going. Both teachers and students have responded very well to it. Personally, I was skeptical, more on the teacher side, because we have a lot of sort of old-time traditional teachers, and I personally was worried that maybe they would react negatively to having to use iPads in the classroom, to having a digital content. But it's been very surprising. I was in our training center in Jeddah last week, and I met with some of those old-timer teachers, expecting them to feel uncomfortable. But they really weren't. They really had very positive things to say, similar to this quote. I think from the teacher's perspective, they like anything that's going to work for the trainees. Anything that's going to keep the trainees engaged, they support. So we have been so far, very pleased with how it's working for us. Okay, so I'm going to show you our new materials, but let me just give you sort of the highlights of our new curriculum. First of all, it starts with a solid learning foundation. So we want to make sure that our trainees have the basic English skills, the basic study skills, the basic safety skills that they're going to need to, as they move through the training program. So we want to give them a solid foundation that we can build on as we move through the program. The next aspect, we really made an effort to focus on functional, practical activities. Particularly in our English training, we really wanted to move away from the more academic side of learning English and just focus on functional tasks. So we don't care so much if a learner knows what the present progressive whatever is. We want them to know how to do things with English, how to ask for something, how to introduce yourself, how to... So we really focused on the very functional tasks. And practical too. So we wanted them to be related, everything that they're doing in class is related to what they will do in their job. And along with that is a lot of workplace simulation, which is much easier to do on an iPad than in a book, in a paper book. So in the case of English, a workplace simulation activity would be writing an email or responding to an email. For job skills, obviously, it would be a job skills thing like replacing a part in a pump or something. So we wanted to, we've made an effort to include a lot of realistic job-related activities. We also tried our best to maximize the engagement of the students. And that is, there's two aspects to that. First of all, the iPads themselves are engaging, so there's a lot of interaction and engagement with the actual device. But also, as curriculum designers, we have made an effort to make the activities that they're doing in the books more engaging, so that there's more opportunity to interact with each other and to interact with the content, the material. One of the biggest benefits of electronic materials is that it is efficient and flexible in terms of content updates. So you probably know when you're training people to go out and to work in a plant, it's happened in the past where the trainees study something in their training program, and they get to the plant and they realize the thing that they learned in their training program has been replaced by some new technology. So with this e-curriculum now, when there's a new piece of equipment in a plant, we can incorporate that very quickly now into our curriculum. It's a much quicker process than with the old paper books. It took a long time in the past. Now it's much quicker. We have an integrated design in this curriculum. So that means instead of having separate courses, we've integrated safety topics, we've integrated corporate culture, we've integrated the soft skills like presentation skills or time management skills or ethics. All of those things are integrated into one course. And again, you'll see an example of that when I show you our materials. Okay, so just quickly to summarize, we have made this transition from the traditional classroom to the smart classroom, and we feel that it gives us several advantages over the traditional classroom. So for one thing, the smart classroom is learner-centered. In the traditional classroom, there was more of a teacher-centered approach. So in the traditional classroom, the teacher was the owner of the information, and he distributed it to the students. In our new classrooms, the learners have access to all the information in their iPads. They can access the internet, they can access the content, they can interact with it. The teacher is no longer the guardian of the information. The teacher is facilitating activities, he's monitoring the students, he's giving feedback. So it's a different environment in the classroom because the learners are more in control of their learning and they have more access to the information. Our new classrooms simulate life on the job, whereas the old classrooms were more one-dimensional, especially in our English curriculum. The old sort of academic approach to English where students were learning things or reading about things that had nothing to do with what they were going to be doing in their jobs. Now we've tried to get away from that as much as possible. Our new classrooms were focusing on participation, getting people active and involved, and producing, to be productive, to actually produce things rather than reading and memorizing things. So the traditional classroom involved a lot of reading books and just being very passive. We're getting away from that. And finally, the smart classroom is flexible and responsive. We can make changes very easily when we see the need. Whereas the old classroom was limited by logistics. So if we wanted to change something in the old curriculum, it was a long process that involved printing books and it was very difficult. Okay, so I'm ready to show you some examples. Our new curriculum is called the performance-based curriculum. We gave it that name because we want to stress the fact that we want our trainees to be able to perform, to do things, to perform functions. So that's why we call it. I just wanted to point out on this slide, I've been talking a lot about our learners and how our learners have sort of shaped the way that we approach the curriculum. However, it's important to remember that our curriculum is aligned with the business line needs, and that is something that is always true. So the objectives of our training program and the way that we assess our trainees depends on our business lines. They tell us what they need our trainees to do, and we base our objectives and our assessments on that. The smart learning environment, all of these iPads and the tools, that's the way that we have chosen now to deliver our content, and that's because we have found that our learners respond better to that delivery system. So the objectives and the assessment still, as they always have been, are dependent on our business line needs. The way that we're delivering the content now is a response to this sort of new type of learner and the new needs of the digital generation. Okay, so I think it's easier for me to show you so you can see what we've done, and I'm going to do that now. I need to just unplug something and plug it in, so just give me a second. Hope I can do this. Can you see? Oh, geez. Okay, this is going to be hard for me to do this because I need more hands than I have. Hello, is this working? Yes. Okay. Ronnie, can you hear me with this?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay, so you can see on your screen, this is an iPad. This is the Books app. And so a student will see all of their course materials now are on an iPad. They can download these through the Aramco iBooks app, and they can get all of the books now they need on their iPad. So let me give you an example of, show you an example of our English materials. You can see, like I said, we're focusing on functions. So on the first page of each unit, they have a list of the language functions that we want them to learn. So it's things that are very practical, like asking someone for something, stating problems, asking about status. So all of that is there for them. As we go through, you can see here's an example now of a writing activity, and you can see right away that it's relevant. It's an email that they're reading. Are you free to meet on Tuesday? And they have to respond by typing, and they have keyboards too, so they don't need to use this keyboard. So it's relevant, it simulates something that they will have to do in their real jobs. Again, we talked about collaboration. We have a lot of these pair work activities where there's a partner A and a partner B. It's much easier to do these in an iPad than in a paper book. So in this activity, there's two partners. One partner has half of the information and his other partner has the other half. And they need to complete it by using the target language. So what does ISO stand for? So again, this is something, thanks. This is something that is much easier to do with the iPad than it was in the, with books. Now here's a reading activity. And again, reading has traditionally been a very difficult thing to teach for our trainees because they don't like it. They don't like having long reading passages. So with the iPad now, with the ebooks, it's much easier for us to make things a little more engaging. Right away, first of all, as I said, we've moved away from the academic subjects, and all of our readings are relevant. So this is a reading about Aramco. It's from an Aramco publication. It's about a program at Aramco. So it's more relevant than previous readings. And you can see that we can make it more engaging by making things, we sort of take them through the reading. And so it's a little bit more engaging for the students. We take them through one section at a time. It's a little bit easier and a little bit just more interesting for our learners than, and if we go all the way through it, we can get some feedback. I'll show you that. But this, again, is something that was not possible with paper books. So at the end, they can check their score, and they see that they only got one question right. And they can go back and review their answers. So again, that sort of instant feedback, that how many you got right, is another important thing. Now, instead of having to get that from the teacher, they can get that directly from the materials. Here is an activity that's a listening activity. And again, it's related to work. It has to do with communicating by radio. They listen and they fill in the blanks. I don't know if you can hear this. Can you hear it?
This is control room.
I will put the burner in service on F101.
Hold.
So, sorry, that's maybe too much. So anyway, and again, they get the feedback right away on what they got right and wrong. Here you can see that we have integrated safety. So here, this is an English course, but you'll find a lot of safety topics integrated with the language that we're working on. Same here. Here we've integrated the corporate values of Aramco into our English courses. So they're dragging things around and checking them. Cybersecurity is a huge issue at Saudi Aramco, so we've also made a big effort to include cybersecurity, and we have videos that we have activities around videos that are included in the books. Again, someone said something about gamification. So we have games like this one where students move around a board and they answer questions. Again, we've tried to align our English materials at the early levels. We've tried to align it with the job skills training at the later levels so that our trainees are better prepared for their job skills courses. So here's an example of an activity where they're just learning some very basic terms like pipe, pump, valve, and then there's a very simple problem that they have to think about, that they have to think about where they need to move water from over here and get some water over here, and they have to think about all of the pieces that it would take to do that. It's a simple thing, but it's just something that gets them these concepts in their mind that they'll revisit when they get to their job skills courses. We have other things, other activities that trainees can do on their own, like this one where they're trying to find errors in a text, or this one where they're choosing the right word, or this one, which is like a sort of a hangman activity where they are trying to guess a word. So we've made a lot of efforts to make our materials more interesting, more engaging, more relevant. And hopefully you can see that. And then at the end of each of our units, there's a review section so that they are prepared for their assessments. And I could show you, we have a cybersecurity course from our clerical training. And you can see that the activity is sort of like a comic book. So it goes over some scenarios and then you choose the advice that you want to give. And then you get instant feedback again. So math, same thing. We have activities where the students are learning how to use their calculators, and they're being guided through the ways to use their calculator, or they're being guided through ways to do different math equations. So again, you can see that all of these things that we're doing with the ebooks, there's no way that we could have done most of them with paper books. So it's really opened up a lot of opportunities for us to design activities that are more engaging for our students. And I should mention also that all of these books that we're using, and we've made dozens and dozens of these books, they're all made in-house by Saudi Aramco employees. We thought, we looked into vendors and getting vendors to create materials for us. But what we found was that to get the kind of customization that we want for our trainees, we really needed to do it ourselves. And that's what we have done. Okay, I want to show you very quickly. I'm going to show you the job skills materials. Unfortunately, I am on the academic curriculum team. I had one of my coworkers was coming with me today on the job skills curriculum team. He had a family emergency, so he could not make it. But I am going to show you some of the new job skills materials, and you'll see that it really does make a big difference. And let me give you an example. So again, they have, this is another sort of reading activity that talks about how to use an instruction manual. And it makes it very easy to connect the reading with the actual instruction manual. If you look at, this is an example of what our job skills course looked like before. It was black and white. It had these little diagrams. It was kind of dry, a little bit dry. Now, they have made an effort to use more pictures, fewer words, and more sort of interaction where you can tap things and get information. There's some exploration involved. Students are active. And you can see it's a big difference from before. Let me give you another example. Well, here again, there's just a lot more exploring the content, finding different, tapping on different things and getting information. Let's go to, they've also used, in a lot of cases, these 3D models. So this is something that is new and exciting for job skills. Here's another example of what we had before. So before, we had this long text and this picture, and it wasn't really clear what this picture is. If you're a student, what is that thing? In the new one, it's very clear. It's instantly obvious what this thing is doing, and it's much more engaging and useful. Again, the old materials, a complicated diagram with some text next to it. In our new materials now, we have these sort of 3D models. We have videos that are demonstrating things much clearer than we were able to do in the past. We also have in our job skills materials, let me just skip forward a little bit. We've used a lot of videos that show different processes that students need to learn for their work. He's going to demonstrate the process, and the student can see it. The student can rewind it and look at it again. So there you go. It's, again, these are things that we could not do or were much more difficult to do before. Here's another example of going through the steps of a process. So all of the steps are listed down, and there's a video for each one. So each one you can tap on it and get the next step and see the video. So we have found that these types of materials go over much better with our trainees than our old materials. And then they also have sort of review activities where they're labeling things and reviewing everything that they need to know for their assessments. Okay, so I think now you have an idea of, is this working? Okay, so I think you have an idea now of what I'm talking about. Oops, sorry. So I think we're going to take a break in just a second, and then we'll come back to our workshop scenarios. But I think maybe we could take some questions. If you have any questions about what you've seen, maybe we can answer them now. Yes?
Thank you so much for what you have presented, but I need to know, when did you start implementing this program, and how was the outcome?
Yeah, so I said before that we piloted our materials at the end last year and earlier this year, and the results were good, and we just now have rolled it out across all of the Saudi Aramco training centers. And we don't have enough data yet to know for sure, but from the teachers and the feedback from the training centers and the trainees, it's very positive so far. Yeah. Yes?
Eric, you did a good presentation, but part of us is from small organizations. So your experience. Can you give us?
Oh, sorry. Oh, thank you. Okay. That question was, what are the results? The one I just answered. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Again, thank you, Eric, for your good presentation. And that beneficial, what you mentioned for big, massive organization like Aramco, Sabaco, etc. But part of here, the participants they are owning or working in a small or medium organization. And you see there is a cost for what you mentioned. By your experience, is there any advice or something to solve this obstacle for small organizations? Thank you.
Yeah, Rania, did you hear that one?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, good.
I can go there.
Okay, that's a very good question. Yeah, I mean, obviously Aramco has the resources to do some. I mean, this is a huge project, and it was very complicated. But you're right, when you're just a smaller organization and you want to take advantage of these tools, it is a little different. I don't know how, I wish I knew what to tell you, but I think like the guy next to you who said that he uses YouTube, I mean, there are ways that you can incorporate technology that you have available. I'm sure everyone has, all of your students probably have cell phones, smartphones. So one of the things that we're thinking about at Saudi Aramco is moving, because right now we're using iPads, but we've already realized that we really need to move to a platform neutral content because we don't want to be tied to one device. So we are moving towards designing devices that people can access from their own device. Yeah, so, but also another point is that a lot of the things that we have done to improve our curriculum are sort of independent of the technology. So making it more relevant, making it, using like very focused Saudi Aramco related materials and activities, that's something that we could do without the technology. But again, the technology makes it more interesting to our trainees. Rania, did you have something to add?
Yes, hi Mr. Eric.
Hi.
Excuse me, I have a question. So now who make the control in the class is what I understand now is the content, not the coach or the teacher. Yes.
Yeah.
So what the benefit from this? What the advantage or disadvantage that is reflect on the class area, but the rule for the students and for the teacher, something will change here.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the advantage or disadvantage?
Well, we think the advantage is, like I said, that the teacher is no longer the owner of the information. The teacher is not the one who is distributing information to students. They have access to the information in their iPads. They are accessing it themselves. So you're very correct that the roles have changed, but we think that's very positive. The role of the teacher now is sort of monitoring, facilitating, giving feedback when it's needed, but the students, the trainees are much more active in accessing their information and working together and interacting with the material. So we think the changed roles is a positive thing. Yes?
Excuse me, is this integrated with the learning management system so the teacher can follow up with all the transactions of the students, so we can see how many times he did good or fails or succeed?
Very good question, and that is something that we are still working on. At Aramco, we have this sort of computer security issue is a very serious one. So it's been difficult for us to find a good learner management system that we can use. But that is something that we want. It's something that we haven't used in the way that you're thinking yet, but that's what we're looking at now. How can we incorporate, what's the best way to incorporate an LMS into our program? Very good question. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Eric. From what you showed us, it seems like you guys have incorporated a lot of multimodal presentation into your content. So have you guys done any need assessment on your students, your target audience, and your maybe even for future staff development? Did you guys carry any research that did actual analyses of the preferences when interacting with the new material?
Well, we did definitely do very thorough needs analysis with our business lines, because those are the people that we are accountable to. So our needs analysis was focused on what do we need our trainees to do when they leave us. For the learning preferences of our trainees, yes, I mean, we talked about all of that stuff I said. We do, as just part of our program, we take surveys, end of segment surveys from all of our trainees, and we get information from them as they are going through the program and as they finish the program. So we do have research, we have surveys that we do, and those are useful to us as we develop our program and change it. Anything else, Rania? Okay, so, yeah?
We're good.
Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is we want to sort of give you some scenarios. They're very easy, they're not that complicated, but we thought to make this more of a workshop, we would present you some of the challenges that we faced as we completed this project, and we would let you talk about it and say what you think, and we'll share with you how we handled it. But I think maybe we could take a break. Is that okay? We can take maybe a 15-minute break, okay? Okay, so we'll come back here in 15 minutes and we'll do the workshop scenarios. It won't be long, and then we can finish. Yeah, what time is it now? 4:45. Hey, Rania.
Yes, sir.
Let's just get started. Do you have enough people over there to have a discussion?
It's fine, we can start.
Okay.
We give them
Okay. Maybe some people went home. I don't blame them because it's been a long day. Anyway, so thanks for coming back. Does anyone have any questions before we get started? Well, this won't take long, I promise. But our idea here was to give you some things to think about. I don't know if any of you are thinking about undertaking a project like this, trying to move towards a more smart learning environment. But it's a big project, and it's just like any project, there will be challenges and things you have to deal with along the way. So we thought we would give you some things to think about and to discuss, and then we can share with you how we handled these things. Yes?
how many people involved in this project? And what's like sections? How many sections also we have?
Okay.
Maybe people who already know doing the applications and the others for the curriculum.
Yeah.
How many?
Well, with what we just showed you, these materials I just showed you, those were all designed by our program development division. So I don't know how many program developers we have, but it's maybe 15 or 20. Rania, how many do we have? Is Rania there?
Yeah, yeah. I think with the math team, clerical, and job skills team,
Yeah.
we may have maybe 20. Yeah, 20.
Yeah.
Something like that.
But we did, we had to learn how to do all of this stuff because and some of us were more skilled at it than others. So we sort of had to define roles in our team. So we did have a pretty big staff. And Rania, did you?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay.
Is there a chance if you design something then you need to edit it? Is there a chance to edit, or it's like whenever you submit it you can't do anything? You will start from scratch again?
No, there is a chance, and that's one of the big advantages, that if you see a mistake in your paper book that you published, it's there forever until you change the paper book. But in our ebooks, if we see a mistake, we can change it right away, and the next training segment will have the corrected book. So yes, and a big part of this project is actually revising things based on feedback, based on finding problems. So that's a part of the project too. Anyway, I think some of your questions will be answered as we go through these scenarios. So let's do that. I hope that you guys can read this. And we thought about maybe we should have translated them into Arabic. I'm not sure, but hopefully you can help each other. So the first one is just to sort of get you thinking about all of the things that this kind of a project involves. So we want you to sort of talk about, if you imagine your administration at the university where you work has tasked you with converting all of your classrooms to smart classrooms. You currently have 15 classrooms. Each of these classrooms is equipped with an internet-connected computer and projector. You use traditional commercial textbooks for all of the classes. You have one tech support person to maintain all of the classrooms. Make a list of all of the things that you need to do to make the change to smart classrooms. So this is what happened at Aramco. The managers said, we want to have smart classrooms. Please give us smart classrooms. And so it sounds simple, but I just want you to think about with each other all of the things that would involve, that task. So if you could just sort of talk to each other and then we'll talk together. We'll just take maybe 5 minutes to talk before we come back together.
What is available here? Like just only the internet connection?
This is what you have. You have projectors, computers with the internet, and that's it. And you're using commercial textbooks. And your administration wants smart classrooms, smart learning environment. What are you going to do? Imagine that money is no object. Okay, I'm going to stop your private discussions and we'll have a public one. Can someone just sort of give me one of the things that you thought about down here? Yes?
We need, I think, one smart board for each classroom.
Okay.
And also we need to network between all of them.
Okay.
To connect. Then we need a program to administrations for all 15 classrooms.
Okay, so you want to network all of the classrooms. Okay, great, yeah.
We can use tablets textbooks instead of the commercial textbooks.
Okay, so you want to get rid of the commercial textbooks and use tablets.
Yeah.
But what are you going to have on those tablets?
We can design interactive applications.
Okay, great. Yes.
Yes, we can use simulators.
Okay, simulators.
Conference call facilities.
Okay.
Audio recorder.
Audio recorders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Round tables.
Okay.
Soft copies from the curriculum.
Soft copies from?
From the curriculum.
Okay. So take like PDF versions of your curriculum materials. Okay. Rania, did you have someone that wanted to say something?
Anyone have anything to add?
Okay, we have more people here. Yes.
Then we have someone here.
Okay.
Okay, so our group, we started thinking about before we bring any new technologies or any equipment, we need to know what are we dealing with. So we need to know who are the students we are teaching, and we need to know what kind of technical aptitude they have already. And then we can start by sorting them into advanced and maybe beginners, and then start devising our movement into the smart classrooms, following their own approaches.
Okay.
That probably was a pre-step before even starting to think about the tools.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, planning is very important, and assessing needs and knowing what you're dealing with. Rania.
Yes, we can use them as Relia to join or link the real life with those concepts or items by showing them some videos or pictures of the concept itself from real life.
Okay, so yeah, you need some new content to use in your classrooms. Yes?
Also, we can use social media channels to interact with the students. Also, I can receive their homeworks through the emails. Also, we can use on some of the interactive stations or free online interactive classes.
Okay. What about manpower? Do you think
I can use the Blackboard Gate.
Okay. Blackboard, what was that?
Gate.
Oh, okay. Okay. Good. Anything else? Yes.
Well, since you hinted at it, so probably we need to think about, can we do it with the current resources that we have, or do we need to outsource it? Do we need to find somebody who can do it for us the way we need it to be done?
Right. Okay. Yeah, I think for us, the lesson that we learned is that it sounds very simple. We're going to convert to smart classrooms. That's great. But there are a lot of things involved in that, and there are a lot of different people. There's administrators, there's curriculum designers, because you can't just use the old curriculum or the old materials that you're using. They need to be adapted to the smart learning environment. And when you have one computer in each classroom using the internet, that's one thing. But when you have every single trainee with access to the internet, takes a lot more infrastructure in terms of the bandwidth that you need to do that. And then you have to think about the teachers, because the teachers are also an important part. There are so many people in different departments involved in a task like this. And so I think what we learned is that communicating between all of those different elements, all of those different things that you need, there has to be a lot of communication. And we found that we needed like a project manager, someone that can sort of oversee all of that. And there's been, in our project, a great effort to have sort of a project management approach where each team is reporting to the project manager and we're sharing what's happening. And there's still like big challenges with communication. And because if you decide, okay, we're going to use iPads for our coursework, well, there's so many things that affects so many things down the line that you really have to communicate that so everyone is on the same page. So that's sort of what we wanted you to get out of this, that there are a lot of things. It's not very simple, and everyone needs to communicate with each other. And we depend on other people on the team to make sure that it moves smoothly. Okay, so let's do another one that's more related to what Rania and I do, which is this. You've been tasked with converting your paper-based textbooks to ebooks. Discuss some of the issues that you expect to encounter when you do this. What are some of the things that you need to keep in mind? So someone said, we're going to use soft copies, which is an obvious thing that you can do when you've got, and that has advantages for sure. But I just think about all of the issues with that. When you're converting a paper-based textbook to an ebook, what are some of the things that you need to keep in mind and some problems that you might have? So again, just 5 minutes and then we'll talk together.
To make the transition much easier.
Okay. Wow, you guys really hit on some of the key issues that we also discussed when we were designing ours. Rania, anybody over there want to add anything?
I think we should manage and administer their internet access, because some of the students, they don't want to involve in the class, but they want to use the internet to different websites, such as Twitter and these things. So we should manage that. We should control that things, because I know this is happening to me all the time.
Yeah, okay, that's true. And there are different ways to do that. Yes?
Because it's a time for prayer now. If you for just about 10 minutes, come back.
Okay, sure. Sorry about that. Thanks. Rania, did you hear that?
Yeah, are they all going?
Yeah, they're going to pray.
Okay. Sure. We can have a prayer break.
I think we should get started.
Yes, I think we should get started too.
Okay. So I think we're going to have fewer and fewer people as we go, and that's fine because it has been a long day. But just before we move on from this scenario, I think what we wanted to stress with this scenario is sort of similar to what this group touched on, and that is, what was it that you touched on? There was, first of all, just taking a paper book and making it like a PDF copy, or making it exactly the same with some places where you can touch things, is not that interesting. It doesn't take advantage of the technology in the way that you want it to. On the other hand, you don't want to go overboard with the technology so that it gets in the way of your learning. Because again, and there's another important issue, and that is what we did for our courses, we were designing sort of materials to be used in the classroom. And that is very different from a self-study or an individual learning situation. Because we still have students in the classroom, and we want our materials to make the most of the classroom. Being in the classroom has advantages, and those are that you can interact with people face to face, and you have a teacher there that you can use as a resource. So we want, when you make materials for your class, you want to make sure that you maximize the benefit of the classroom environment. And you have to be careful about that. You saw in the materials I showed you where we had the pair work and group work. That's an example. Like, the students have iPads, but they're interacting with their classmates and holding the iPad. So the activity itself takes advantage of the technology, because it's very easy to set up a pair work activity with the iPad compared to the paper book. But it also takes advantage of the classroom environment that has students working together and collaborating. So I think that's one of the main issues that we wanted to get across with this scenario. Don't let technology get in the way, but make maximum use of the technology so that you're not wasting the technology. And it's a fine balance. Okay, we're going to do one more, well, we're going to do a couple more actually. This is, we wanted to put sort of a job skills scenario in there. So unfortunately, our job skills person is not here, but we can still think about this. So you have the ability to use 3D models for training students on using industrial equipment. And you also could train students using actual equipment. So how do you decide or which equipment and processes you will use 3D models for, and which ones you'll use actual equipment for, or maybe you want to always use actual equipment? So this is sort of an issue that our job skills curriculum designers had to decide on. Which processes, which equipment were they going to use 3D models on? Yes?
Well, we can use these in the virtual labs for chemical compounds or chemical materials. We can use the 3D models.
Okay, can you say that so the girls can hear? Yeah.
Well, we can use the 3D models in the virtual labs. I mean, the chemistry, physics, sometimes it's risky to deal with these stuff. So we use the virtual labs in order that the students are engaged in the exercise, and they are not harmed by the dangerous materials.
Okay, so safety is a factor. So something dangerous is a good choice for 3D models. Rania?
Yes, maybe I can use it to build up something. For example, I have always suffered when I bought something from IKEA. If there's a 3D model, I will know which materials exactly. Sometimes I'm using different screw or something like that. So whenever it's on 3Ds, it will be clearer and easier, especially if there's a process. It will be a lot easier for me.
For sure. There's no doubt that 3D models are very useful for training. But also, if you were building your thing from IKEA and you had actual thing from IKEA and someone was helping you put it together in the real thing, that would also be helpful too. So you're right that the 3D model is helpful, but the actual thing is also sometimes more helpful. Yes?
I decide which equipment and process I can use or not according to the objectives I have to achieve, according to the age of the students, according to the nature of the content that I'm going to explain to them or give them the opportunity to do it or to learn through. Also, I think when we are in a vocal and I think when we are teaching something which is like mechanics, for example, or electrician or something like this, it is very important to use 3D models because it will be helpful for the students. But when we go to literature, something like poems, for example, I think it can be away from 3D models.
Okay. All right, but what would you say is more helpful, a 3D model of a pump or an actual pump?
The actual pump.
Okay, so where do the 3D models come in? Yes?
Well, I think since we're going to use the 3D model, we need to know, or at least be able to measure whether the learning objective that we're trying to achieve can be achieved with the 3 models.
Yes, similar to what you said, yes.
And since we're talking about 3D models, and I think making is learning, and instead of just bringing the 3D model and let them maybe use it or play with it for a while, and then I think we can go even deeper and bringing a 3D printers and try to make them get into the making of the equipment itself. Once they go that deep into the equipment, the process that goes into it, we have achieved the mastery level of acquiring the new knowledge.
Okay, great. Yes, here.
We had an experience here in Saudi Arabia. We have 2 places that they are having a fab lab. And in the fab lab, one of them is in King Fahed's University. There's a fab lab there, and they can build their own 3D model. Also one in Riyadh here in one school in Riyadh. There's a fab lab inside that school, and the boys can go there and they can build their own 3D models.
Wow.
So this is one type of doing it without exposing the students to dangers.
Good.
To dangers.
That sounds amazing. Where are these?
There are 2 places. One in Dammam, in Bahrain.
Okay.
One in here and there.
Cool. Okay. I think with this, for us in Aramco's job skills training, 3D models, obviously, I mean, you saw in the materials I showed you, they're so much more useful than paper, black and white illustrations in the paper books. But again, the actual equipment is also probably even more helpful because that's even realer than the 3D model. So, of course, we want to use the actual equipment as much as we can, but sometimes, like, it's dangerous. You don't want to expose people to danger. Sometimes it's expensive, so it's easier to use 3D models. And sometimes it just logistically, it's not easy to get people to where they need to be to see whatever it is. So 3D models are very useful when you have these other factors. But the actual equipment is also the best. I mean, I guess there's, it can be debated, but it's better to have the actual equipment to learn on the actual equipment. But it's not always possible, or it's not always a good idea, I guess.
Actually, I think I've read somewhere that the use of 3D models is a transitional phase between classrooms and real life practices. I wonder if the practices that's happening in Aramco is similar to that, or is it just mere within the classroom experience?
No, I mean their training program is very involved. So there's, it starts at the lower sort of base academic side, and then they go to their job skills, and then there's on-the-job training, and there's continuing training even after you are on the job. So, yeah, you're right. The 3D models hopefully prepare people for going and doing the on-the-job training where they'll actually be working on the equipment. Okay, Rania, anything else over there? Can we move on?
Yeah, this one.
Okay. Oh, are we done, Rania? Did she say there was someone else?
Hello?
Yes, hi.
Hi. Ms. Eric?
Yes.
I want to say something about the 3D and the 2-dimension.
Okay.
I think we need 3D when we want to manifest processing more. And the 2-dimension, we need just to know the picture of something or the details of something.
Okay, so you mean when you want to explain a process?
Yes.
You can use.
Yes,
yeah.
use more than one dimension for the object.
Yeah.
So how to maybe enter something from side and take it out from the other side, something like this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And you saw that in the materials I showed you. Our old materials had just a two-dimensional picture with arrows, and it was confusing and it wasn't clear. And then the 3D models, it's very clear. It's moving and you can see what's happening much easier. So there's no question between 2D and 3D for a process, which one is better. Okay, let's do our next scenario. Okay, this one involves your teaching staff. Your teaching staff is made up of a combination of young professionals and seasoned veterans. While some of the teachers are excited about the switch to a smart learning environment, many others are very skeptical. Not only do they not believe in the value of technology, they have very little experience using technology themselves and are very resistant to incorporating it into their teaching practice. What will you do to address this problem? This is a problem that we did have. I mean, when you tell your teachers, oh yeah, we're going to do everything on the iPad, they get scared because that's like a big change for people who have been teaching the same way for many years. So it's something that we had to deal with. So I'm curious to hear from you, how would you deal with that? Maybe you've had to deal with it already. So does anyone have this experience? Okay, Ronnie.
My colleague said teacher training, and I believe teacher observation will help a lot by putting the pioneers at the head to show others how it's going and how will close it. Then they will find it easier, then they will get trained later on. So maybe that's how it will work.
Great, that is an excellent answer. Training obviously is key to, you can't just unleash this on your staff and expect them to be fine. You need to take a lot of time to do training. Good answer.
Okay, there's another comment here that she wants me to say. So she says to take it step by step, giving them small tasks that involve smart learning.
Great.
Until they get used to it.
Yeah, very good. Comment here?
I think you should first have a meeting with the teachers and try to find out what's their, experience with the technology. Evaluate them and try to give them training, all of them before even that, discuss with them what's the benefit. Because if they don't know what's the benefit, they will not go with you. Tell them exactly what's our goals. Yes, at the beginning it will be hard for them, but then it's going to be very easy to them to deal with their classes, with their students, everything. When they knew these benefits, I think they will go ahead and then will cooperate with the staff or the management. So it's very important is to sit with them, put this, at the beginning.
Absolutely, and that goes along with sort of one of our big messages today, and that is communication is so important. And that's exactly sort of what we did in our experience. From the beginning, we involved teachers and we got them involved. We told them what was happening. We made them aware of what we were doing. We consulted with them. Early on, we did training. We identified the teachers who were more skilled with the technology, and we got them to support their coworkers at their schools. So that's pretty much exactly what we did, what you just said. So that's great, yeah.
I think it's very important to encourage them to move into the unknown area for them, to have a new experience. It is very important to make it clear that when you make a mistake, you will not be punished. Because some of them, or many of them, think of punishment before trying to do something.
Right, that is true. I think, another thing that we learned is that it's not going to be perfect, There's going to be problems that you're going to have to deal with, and you have to be willing to accept that. You can't expect all of the teachers to be perfect at it, but you can expect them to try and we've had good experiences with that. Yes?
We can relate the use of technology to that salary. I mean, the bonuses and the financial stuff.
I suppose we could. Yeah, that's one idea. Yes?
Also, I will talk with him about advantage and disadvantage for the technology. Then after that, which effect they will know which effect advantage or disadvantage, and they will argue with me and will benefit from this. I think these debates to be used with them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for teachers, the bottom line is always, does it make their job better or easier, right? And we think that it does in the case of our materials, and we've heard that from teachers so far. But also, on our side, what's been important is we have opened the lines of communication. So our teachers have a way to communicate their feedback to us and that we can respond to. So that's also important. Absolutely. And that actually raises a good point. And one of the real lessons that we have learned in this project, and that is, no matter what your curriculum is, you can have the coolest iBooks in the world. None of it takes the place of a good teacher. A good teacher you can give a terrible book to, and he will give you an excellent class. So really, teachers are very key to any curriculum, no matter what it is. And they still are, even with this curriculum. And teachers need to know that we still need good teachers. And by the way, I've observed classes now with this new curriculum, and I've seen sort of the old guys do amazing classes with the new curriculum. I mean, really, there is no substitute for a good teacher. Yes?
I just want to add one point. It may help to solve this problem if the teacher try this new curriculum by themselves instead. Like if they have technical training and they are technical training and they are using these iPads to see how this gonna be easy for them to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we did make our materials available to teachers before we expected them to start using them. Okay, Rania, any comments over there?
No, we're good, thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next one so that I'm not sure how much time we have, but we're almost finished. Okay, the next scenario. You have designed new ebooks to be used by your students and teachers in your new smart learning environment. One of the features of these new materials is the ability of students to check their answers to exercises on their own. However, teachers are complaining that for multiple choice exercises, students are not thinking about the questions at all. They simply randomly choose answers and check them until they find the correct answer. So, what would you do to address this issue? This may be familiar to some people because it's very common for students just to not think and just start selecting answers until they find the right one. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Yes? Yes. Okay. So, has anyone had to deal with that?
Next lecture, I will do a quiz on the same question, but without a multiple choice. You have to answer it completely with all the equations and everything.
Okay.
So if you do, okay.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear that, Rania?
Okay, so we have one comment here.
Wait. So hold on. We have someone talking, but could you hear him?
Sorry, yeah. No, we can hear you.
Okay, so start.
What I did actually do a quiz the next lecture using the same question with the same numbers, everything, but not a multiple choice questions. The student has to answer it completely.
Okay.
Writing.
Okay, good. Okay, Rania.
Okay. We can edit the way of answering the multiple choices by give them only one chance to answer without showing the correct answer. So they have only one chance to answer, which means they will take it seriously.
Okay, that's that's a way to address it. Any other ideas? Yes?
No, I have to come to you. I will use the mic.
Okay.
Sometimes
Giving them a limited number of chances.
Okay, got it.
sometimes if we are doing the formative assessment, we can give them the answer and let them use that answer by doing the solution by writing their way, or how did they solve the problem. So by doing this and giving them the final answer, the correct answer, they will learn from their mistakes.
Okay.
So this is one way to deal with the multiple choice corrections.
Yeah, it's an issue, and it's very disturbing to be in class and see this happening, where it's just like you feel like. So yes.
We can add the question why
Mm-hmm.
after each choose.
Okay. So add something that can't be my ad. Okay. Okay.
We have one more comment.
All right. Go ahead.
We can limit the time for the student for the answer, so they don't have enough time to change their answer.
Okay. Yeah, so you sort of are on the same track that we were thinking. This scenario is something that happened, obviously, to us, where we were so proud of our materials that, oh, look, the students can check their work, and then the teachers who piloted it came back and said, this is terrible, because they're just checking their answers and they're not learning anything. So we had to think about, so this is an example of us responding to what the teachers were telling us and making a change. And the change that we made is we still do have multiple choice things, but what happens now with our checker is it will tell you, you got some wrong. Like you have to answer them all and then check your answers, and it will tell you, you got some wrong, but it won't tell you which ones you got wrong. So you need to go back and think about which one's right and which one's wrong. We also did a thing with some of the drag and drop activities where you drag things and then check your answer, and this is sort of similar to what some of the ladies were suggesting. And that is, when you check it, it starts a timer, and you can't check it again until like a minute has passed or however many seconds. So that discourages people from just quickly checking their answers. They have to wait 25 seconds to try again. So it's easier for them then to just think about what the right answer is than to have to wait 25 seconds every time. Yes, back in the back.
If you would like to add some intelligence in the system, I think there's an average time for each question. So if the student's moving very fast, then the system block him, and then please go and review the questions.
Okay, yeah. We have done some of that too, where we've prevented people from moving, like going too fast through. That is true. We did do that also, in some cases. But again, it's an issue, and there are different ways to deal with it, and we've tried different ones. And the teachers' feedback on this is something that we really rely on, because they are the ones that made us aware of the problem to begin with. But again, this sort of illustrates the point that a textbook, an e-book to be used in the class, is different from a self-study book that you will use at home to learn something. Because in the classroom, we have certain needs and requirements that are different from self-study. Okay, Rania, anybody else over there? Okay, let's do the next one. This may be the last one. Your administration has stated a desire for your classrooms to be paperless. However, one of the objectives of your program is to improve students' English handwriting skills so that they are able to write clearly using pen and paper. What would you do to resolve this conflict? This, again, is another thing that really happened to us. So what are your thoughts on this? Yes?
You can use the tablet, it's not a big deal with the pen electronically.
You can use, yeah,
And this will be even more easier to correct and have all the information.
So you're saying on the iPad, you can write on the iPad. Yes, that is one solution, yes. Any other thoughts on this issue? Rania, are there any thoughts over there?
They have the same type.
Use the okay. All right, yes.
We can use
with the pen, the stylus.
Right. Yeah, so, but to be able to use the iPads, you also need a stylus, right? Because we're not teaching people, so we need like one of these, right? So that requires some more equipment, but yes.
We can use smart boards.
Okay, we can use smart boards. Any other ideas? This is kind of maybe a trick question because what we did as curriculum designers, we said, no, we are not going to be paperless. If our objective is to have people write using a pen and paper, it's ridiculous for us not to have pens and papers in the classroom. Until the workplace is paperless and we're not using pens and paper in the workplace, we will continue to use pens and papers in the classroom, especially if that's one of our stated objectives of the program. So we do have styluses and we do handwriting exercises in the iPad, and it is useful, like for learning how to form letters, and I mean there are things you can do. But honestly, if there are some, I think the lesson that we've learned, there are some objectives that you don't need technology for, you don't want technology for. And this is an example. If your objective is to learn to write clearly with pen and paper, then you use pen and paper for that. You don't need to use an iPad. However, I mean, you can support that with the iPad, but again, we said no to this because it doesn't make sense to us as curriculum designers. Rania, anything to add to that? Okay, is that our last scenario? It is, okay. So you made it through. Thank you for your patience and listening to all of our scenarios. Let me just sort of wrap up here by sort of emphasizing what we think are the lessons learned that we gained as we went through our project. The first one, as we said before, technology should enhance the classroom experience, not distract from it. That was very important. The second one, some learning objectives are best achieved without technology. That's what I just said. So that's related also to the issue of, do you use an actual pump or do you use a 3D model of a pump? Sometimes it's just better just to use a pump, which is also technology, I guess, but you know what I mean. Okay, technology is no substitute for good teaching. Again, this, I cannot stress this enough because it is so clear whenever we observe classes. You can see the same material with two different teachers and it's a world of difference, totally different. So again, teachers are still the key element of our curriculum delivery. And finally, teething problems are normal, so that means you have to expect that there's going to be problems and you have to be ready to confront them and deal with them. It's never going to be smooth and perfect. And finally, our last one is communication is the key to success. There are so many people involved in a project like this, and if you do not communicate, you are setting yourself up for failure. So those are, I think that's it. Those are our lessons learned. There's probably more, but those are the key things that we wanted to share with you. Does anyone have any questions now? I think we're done talking. Ronnie, are there any questions over there?
No, everything was clear.
Okay, so we're done. Thank you guys so much for your patience and for staying with us. It was a long day, and you can go home now. I think. Can you? All right, thank you. See you tomorrow, I guess.